Have you ever known somewhere deep inside that something in your life needed to change? But even when the door opened, you didn't step through it? Maybe you felt too afraid to step forward. Maybe the old situation was too small. Maybe life was too painful. And maybe it did not fit who you were becoming. But it was familiar, right? And sometimes when we have lived kind of boxed in inside fear for a long time, the familiar can feel safer than freedom. So today I want to share a story with you. It was written part in part by a coaching client who had struggled with anxiety for many, many years. And through story, she found a way to express feelings that were difficult to name directly. She called it at first the puppy in a cage, and a while later she wrote the end of the story and changed the name to A Puppy in a Cage No Longer. This has stayed with me for many years because the puppy in this story became a gentle mirror, afraid, hopeful, cautious, alive, and slowly learning that freedom was possible. I have edited the story slightly for clarity and flow and to protect her privacy, but the heart of it remains hers. And I am grateful that she gave me permission to share. So the story is called A Puppy in a Cage No Longer. Here it is. There was once a puppy in a cage. He was not an old dog, tired of the world. He was young at heart, made for grass and sunlight, for muddy paws and ridiculous joy. He was the sort of puppy who would chase a butterfly as if it were a royal mission, who would sniff a worm with serious scientific interest, and who would greet every human as a possible friend. Because a puppy is born believing in friendship. But this puppy lived in a cage. People passed by, and still he lifted his head. Still he wagged his tail. Still he hoped. Each time footsteps came near, something inside him rose like moaning. Perhaps this time? Perhaps now? Perhaps the door would open. But too often the footsteps passed, the door stayed closed, and little by little the puppy's heart broke in quiet pieces. Still, one small piece remained, and in that piece lived hope. Not a grand hope, not a loud hope, just a small, stubborn spark that said, "One day, maybe, I will be free." The puppy had food, he had water. He was not forgotten in the ordinary ways. His bowl was filled. His needs were met. At least the needs that could be seen from outside the cage. But there are needs a bowl cannot answer. A puppy needs to run. A puppy needs to play. A puppy needs to belong. A puppy needs someone to open the door and say, "Come, you were not made only to wait." Years passed, the puppy grew, and the cage did not. And one day, while he was turning in circles, trying to make himself comfortable in a space that had become too small, something happened. The door opened. The puppy stared. Nothing moved. No one called. No hand reached in. No voice said yes or no. The open door simply stood there. The puppy wanted to run. Every part of him wanted it, yet his paws stayed still. He listened for footsteps. He looked for the people who owned the house. Had they forgotten to close the door? Was it a mistake? Was he allowed? The room beyond the cage seemed enormous. You know, freedom, when one has only dreamt of it, can be frightening when it finally arrives. So, for a long while, the puppy did nothing. But then, something inside him gathered itself. He stepped out. The floor felt strange beneath his paws. The house was wide and unfamiliar. Shadows seemed larger than they should. The puppy moved carefully, then stopped. What if he was caught? What if someone was angry? What if the cage, small as it was, had been safer after all? Then another door opened. This one led outside. Light came through it. Air came through it. A smell he did not know came through it. The smell of grass and earth and distance. And the puppy froze again. Behind him was a cage. It was small, but it was known. There had always been food. There had always been water. He had never had to search for anything. He had never slept beneath the sky. He had never been hungry. At least he thought he liked the food. He had never tasted anything else. Then 2 men came through the open doorway, carrying something heavy. The puppy hid, saw the door slowly close again, and then he started to run. He ran as if his legs had been waiting all their lives to remember what they were for. He slipped through just before the doors shut behind him. He did not look back. Outside, the world was larger than his dreams. He ran and ran. He leapt into the air. He rolled in the grass. He tasted it and found it strange, but wonderful, because it was his own choice. He chased a butterfly and nearly caught nothing at all, which seemed good enough. He saw a worm and considered eating it, and then decided some adventures are best left for braver stomachs. For a little while, the puppy was only joy. Then evening came. The light faded. The air grew cold. The open world, so beautiful in the sun, became strange in the dark. The puppy did not know where he was. He did not know where to sleep. No bowl appeared. No familiar sounds told him what came next. And then the puppy thought of the cage. He thought of the food. He thought of the door that closed behind him. Had he made a mistake? The puppy found a place beneath some branches. He curled himself as small as he could. He shivered. He was free, but he was alone. And freedom without love can feel very cold at night. At least he slept. For the first time in a long while, he dreamed. He dreamed of a home where he was not kept merely alive but loved. A home where someone opened the door, not by accident, but with welcome. A home where he was taken for walks, called by name, petted with kindness, and invited to play. Morning came. The puppy woke hungry. There was no bowl, no cage, no familiar hand, only the sound of the world beginning again. Then he heard footsteps. He held still. A small person appeared, not much taller than the puppy himself. A little boy. The boy saw him, bent down, and lifted him into his arms. The puppy did not understand. Was it danger? Rescue? Trouble? He did not know. Fear had taught him to question even kindness. The boy carried him to a house that was not the old house. Then he ran inside and returned with food and water. The puppy ate. He was so hungry that for a moment fear stepped aside. The boy brought him inside. A grown-up looked at the puppy and nodded. The puppy's heart trembled. Surely they knew where he belonged. Surely they would take him back to the cage. He watched the boy closely. Should he wag his tail? Should he stay very still? Should he hide? He did not yet know the rules of this new place. Then the boy brought out a ball. A ball! Something ancient and joyful woke in the puppy. His tail moved before he gave it permission. Then it wagged harder, and the boy laughed and rolled the ball across the floor. The puppy ran after it. He did not know how to catch it properly. He bumped it with his nose, chased it under a chair, lost it, found it again, and acted as though this were the greatest work ever given to a creature under heaven. And perhaps it was, and it is. The boy took him outside. The puppy ran in the grass again, but this time he was not alone. Someone called him back with kindness. Someone fed him. Someone laughed when he missed the ball. Someone was pleased simply because he was there. And slowly the puppy understood. He had not escaped one cage merely to be lost in the world. He had found a home, a place where he was not only fed but loved, not only sheltered but welcomed, not only kept but known. The puppy had been afraid of the open door, but beyond the door was grass. Beyond the grass was night. Beyond the night was a child with a bowl. And beyond fear was a life he had almost forgotten he was made to live. Because the puppy was in a cage no longer.